Greetings. As you know, this is Measure of an Episode. Our continuing mission is to explore what makes a Star Trek episode a good Star Trek episode and not just good TV. I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Jonathan.
And the episode that we watched was Shakaar. It's season 3, episode 24, and the blurb states when the
of
first
Deep
minister...
Space Nine.
Sorry, of Deep Space Nine. That's the important part.
Very important.
When the first minister of the Bajoran provisional government dies, Kai Wynn is appointed to his duties and is about to be formally elected.
Oh, more political stuff. That's
Wait a minute.
surprising.
Not okay. This proves beyond a doubt that the person does not watch the episodes, and this is why I was so confused.
You mean the person who writes the blurbs?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, the person who writes the episodes.
Well, that might be the case too.
Right. Because Kai Wynn is a girl.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Wait, I thought Kai Wynn was the dude that lives on the space farm.
No, that's Shakaar.
I didn't really pay attention. So I caught it.
So you watched this the way girlfriends watch Star Wars?
I watched this during the act breaks of Breaking Bad.
Great.
So whatever I could catch in the 3.5 seconds when it fades to black and then fades back up, that's what I caught.
I saw some caves, some fighting, lots of talking.
And some words. I think it was the titles. So this episode starts with a B plot. And I think this might be a DS9 thing where they start light so they can end on the cold open with something heavy. But this was a first, I think. Where
it actually showed both of them? You're right.
Yeah, where it showed both of them. So it starts with the dart game. And I know that they play darts a lot. In fact, they do a lot of sports in this show, right?
That's true. Yep, baseball.
Yeah. So, and walking. I think there's a lot of walking in this show.
There's a straight up promenade. So what else are you going to do?
Yeah, promenade means to walk in German and Italian. It's weird. It's like it's this word that sort of jumps. Anyway, they start with darts, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, how is this going to develop? I guess they've set up at some point that because O'Brien is Irish, Scottish, Irish, because he's Irish, he likes to do bar things, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so he's.
We don't just stereotype aliens.
No. We start with our own, and then we push out. And so then the darts scene ends. He's on a roll, right? He's playing with Cisco, and then Cisco gets called somewhere. And there endeth the B plot opener,
right?
And then it starts with Kira praying toward a candle, and I don't actually remember what happens after that, but that's the end of the B plot or the end of the A plot, as far as I can remember.
That's the end of the B plot, that's the
cold open.
Right, there we go. The Kira's lighting her candles, and then he goes in and tells her that Kai Wynn was elected, and she kind of gives that stressed soap opera look before it cuts to.
Which is extra entertaining for me because I had no idea who the hell that was. Right. It could have said anything. She could have Ronald McDonald, and it wouldn't have made any sense to me.
Right. Obviously, based on her reaction, you know that there's either some history or that it is a problem to Kira, but you have no idea why.
Right. And I was fine with it. So one thing that was very nice to see was the slow transition from goatee with bald to the goatee with bald head on Cisco.
Right. Yeah. I couldn't remember if it was a stark contrast or if it was a gradual thing, and this episode explained it.
Yeah, I thought he just showed up like Riker did with a beard, but
right.
That's not. Apparently, it's a slow transformation for Cisco.
Yeah.
Okay. So another question I had for you, since you are a Deep Space Nine guru, so if you think about it, Kira is praying, right?
Right.
And in this Star Trek universe, praying carries an entirely different meaning because the people that she's praying to, or the beings that she's praying to, actually exist. And I don't mean actually as though people who pray now don't think it. I mean, we've met the people she's praying to on the show.
Right.
So it's not a matter of faith. It is a matter of science.
Yeah, they don't just believe, they know. Right.
They know.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's a huge revelation of people who pray to something that actually exists, that they have seen and interact with.
Yeah, but people pray to Jesus, and we know that Jesus existed.
Right, but we don't like your friend didn't meet Jesus in season 1, right?
Right, but so there are very few Bajorans who have actually met the prophets and seen them.
Right,
so,
they are in this universe. They are considered real. They're not a matter of faith or just mythology. They actually exist.
Right, but the knowledge and the faith and the prayer, it would be the same as Jesus. Like, we know that Jesus existed, and people who pray to him believe that when they pray, he hears it and has some influence on their lives. And so it's kind of the same thing here. Like, she knows that the prophets exist, and she's praying to them, assuming that they are hearing it and having an influence on her life. But you're right; they do have physical knowledge that they do have that the prophets are there,
and that they're kind of extraterrestrial, right? They're not just a human.
Well, supernatural, because they live in the wormface.
Right. Yeah. So that struck me.
Well, and it also makes sense that a race would have such a strong faith, like the entire planet would have such a strong faith base, because there's no
physical evidence.
Right. There's no question. There's no debate whether or not they're there.
Right. Anyway, so back to the episode. So there's this contentious scene with Kira and Lady Drapery, and she's telling her she basically lay out in this super long teller scene that must have been 4 or 5 minutes, and basically telling her what the stakes were and what happened. Shakaar stole some farming equipment, and they were going to use that farming equipment to grow things that they could then sell in the open market that would make Bajor eligible for Federation membership. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that was good.
Everybody got that? So Lady Drapery is this condescending kind of a-hole that Kira doesn't like. Right? Mm-hmm. And so they're into the space A-plot, right? No, I don't think any more of the A-plot takes place in space.
Oh, in space. I gotcha. Yes.
Right. So Kira goes to Shakaar's farm and meets Shakaar. And boy, do I have a lot to say about Shakaar. Because first of all, he's wearing the requisite leather vest. So whenever somebody goes down to a planet in Star Trek, they have to be wearing a leather vest.
Okay.
The locals, right?
I will watch for that. All right. Yeah.
It is usually very rural. I guess that's because they don't want to build this entire set full of space stuff, like futuristic technology stuff. So it's always something like a farm. But they have a very futuristic doorbell, which happens in this episode. Like it's obviously an Old West set on Paramount set, and they scotch taped a fancy looking doorbell so it onto the set, and that's they're now in the future now.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean that's all it takes is just a futuristic doorbell. Like we live in the future now.
Well, don't we live in the past? Because it takes our brains like 10 milliseconds or something like that to process our environment. And so we're technically always 10 milliseconds behind and therefore in the past. Like we're seeing the past.
We're always seeing what just happened.
Right. Yeah.
We're never seeing what's happening.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Which is a very sad way of, thinking about the world.
I know. Especially when you look in the mirror. It's like, this is how I looked a second ago.
Right. I just want to know how I look now.
They have those mirrors that show you how you actually look and not a mirror image of you. They're very expensive. Yeah.
I did not know. Oh my gosh, that would be so trippy.
Yeah, it'd be weird. Or would it be exactly the same? We don't know.
No, because think about it. Obviously, like seeing your facial mirror image, like you get used to, and when you see the flip side of it, you're like, oh, that's a little weird. But that you would get used to. I feel like lifting your right arm and seeing your reflection lifting its right arm would be, you'd never be able to get anything done.
It would make you respect yoga instructors a lot more. When they say raise your right hand, they have to raise their left hand. They have to do everything in mirror image. And it's
any instructor, I have to do that all the time. Yeah.
So I have a lot of respect for you.
Oh, thanks.
Just now.
Right. It just came.
Yeah.
It'll go away the moment we start talking again.
Okay. So she has her scene with Shakaar. And okay, so immediately, Shakaar is the quintessential hunky Star Trek guy, right?
Yes. I mean, now he's not the new alien that she's falling for, which is also a Star Trek trope, but he is an old flame of hers, or at least an old...
I mean, they're unclear, Again, with the writing, I'm sure this was purposeful, where they want to imply that something has gone on between them. And it's not just sort of a respect for your commander type of thing. And so, okay, so the one thing, so he's wearing the leather vest and he's got like the flowing hair, and they comment on each other. And Shakaar is doing the thing that I hate when actors do, which is they don't have a natural, low, deep, kind of gravelly voice, but they really want to have a low, deep, gravelly voice, but they can kind of fake it, right? And so they do that for the whole episode. And it's kind of this whispery thing, because if you want to speak low, you can't project that way if it's not naturally low. So, but you can kind of slow it down and make it as deep as possible. I can't do it, but
no, that was perfect. No. That's exactly how bad it sounds.
Yeah. So, but he's doing it, and he's doing it the whole episode, and it's obviously he's got this affect going. I wonder if they told him to do that, or if this is him being his space sexy.
All right. So the way I took it, I heard it, and I definitely agree with you. But what I inferred from it was, he was just like he'd kind of got all his fighting out of his system, and he was just kind of zen about it now, and it was just his just kind of passively viewing the world rather than trying to actively be a part of it anymore.
That was the reason for his deep voice?
Yes. Okay. Like it was he was like, I'm done fighting. I need to start talking like this now.
I've been working on this though. What do you think?
No, like it was a character choice, whether or not it was a direction or it was an actor choice. But yeah.
He automatically started annoying me from the first scene I saw him. But I get it. I got it. I understood where it was going, right?
Right. Yeah. You could handle it.
Yeah.
You didn't like it, but you could watch the episode between commercial breaks from Breaking Bad.
Exactly. Okay, so that scene ends, and then we go back up to the B plot, and nothing has changed. It's more darts. It's more darts, and he's on a roll. O'Brien's on a roll, and Quark takes advantage of it. There endeth the B plot. Like, it doesn't change from that. I suppose somehow O'Brien gets injured playing darts. Somehow.
Well, yeah. So there's four scenes total. There's the open. There's him on a streak. There's him hurting his arm. And there's the wrap up at the end.
Really? Because it felt like 17 scenes of them just playing darts. And nothing happens.
Let's talk about the B plot. I absolutely loved the B plot because
it required absolutely no investment emotionally whatsoever.
Right. But the reason why I liked it was because, first off, it gave all of these vague, like it could have gone either way. Like O'Brien seemed to very clearly be faking his shoulder injury, and he and Bashir have worked together on like pranks and that kind of thing before. So I thought for sure they would show a scene where O'Brien like was just hanging out in the medical office, and he's like, and Bashir would be like, "That's about how long it takes to fix his shoulder," or at the end they would split up the money they earned from the house. Paying out because he lost. And the whole thing, like if you just take those scenes, it was basically a Twilight Zone episode where Quark is like the gambler or the devil or whatever, and he draws this person in and they fight out, and then the next person comes along and he's like, let me tell you about the zone.
See, okay, so I took it entirely differently. Whereas he was not faking, because number one, I think he was just overacting. But that's just what happens on this show, as I've said before about Deep Space Nine.
Right.
Because I think he was enjoying it. I think he was enjoying being in the zone, obviously. I feel like an idiot that I just said that out loud. But also Bashir starts playing darts and he says, let me tell you a little bit about like that. You're right. There should have been a scene where they showed that he was faking. So I think that he actually hurt his arm reaching for the mug.
But see, then why have Quark like be so shocked that such an innocent gesture? Like he doesn't even take it fully. Like he literally just puts his hand on it and then starts like screaming in pain. So it wasn't even the weight of the cup. It was him reaching out. And
because
Bashir,
he was so crestfallen that his he didn't get any more platinum. And so that was his disappointed look. I mean, he's wearing 19 pounds of makeup. It's hard to see,
Sadness versus bewilderment.
Okay, I see what you're going for. So you're saying that Quark didn't believe them, but also didn't object. He saw that they were exiting the zone through this. But why do that? Why wouldn't he just walk away? Why do they need an exit like that?
Well, because Quark convinced him that it was 10 to, so everything in it felt like they were trying to pull one over on Quark. They were trying to get him to lose money because that's what they do to Quark.
But the Star Trek people don't make money.
Right. So many different captains have said that. Right. And so they or
at least the Federation people. Sorry. The Federation people. The money thing isn't true about Star Trek people. It's true about Federation people.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. There are still certain races, because I think the Ferengi are in the Federation, so they still use some sort of currency exchange. So maybe that's what it means. I mean, obviously, we're probably getting a little too deep into the weeds on this, but it is odd, right? Because obviously O'Brien in the B plot is not making any money because he doesn't need money. If we're taking the previous legacy of Star Trek at its word, he doesn't need it. So he's in it for the ego, and so has really no reason to exit this, right?
Right. But that's the thing, but he's also now being manipulated and controlled by Quark. Like, he wanted out, he wanted to just do his kayaking program. And that was the other thing too. Like, so he wanted just to do his kayaking program, but Quark kept pulling him in, and Quark tells him, he's like, I'm done. And Quark tells him he's got 10 to 1 odds. And then O'Brien is like, 10 to 1, eh? Make it 15 to 1. Even though he was just planning on leaving, he's like, now let's up the stakes. And that's where I felt like the tipping point was, where O'Brien was like, I'm going to get out. I'm going to screw Quark in the process, and I will still get to do my kayaking program.
Oh, that's so vindictive of O'Brien. I mean,
yes, it's not unlike his character. He enjoys a prank. He enjoys he enjoys retaliation, even if it's like in good fun or if it's a little bit too mean.
Right.
He's an Irishman.
I suppose. I mean, I'm guessing that Quark lost, all of his money, 15 to 1, and the Vulcan is playing darts. Can you think of a very un-Vulcan? I guess maybe darts requires a lot of concentration, and so maybe they'd be good at it. But I never got the impression that Vulcans played sports.
Well, I guess it depends on what you consider sports. Like, because don't they play against Vulcans in baseball? I'm pretty sure they do.
I don't remember. God, I can't wait for that episode.
Right. I'm pretty sure it is Vulcans. And
I don't like watching real baseball.
And Spock enjoys chess, which, it's definitely mental acuity. I could see them. I mean, darts goes with bars on Earth, so I get like the in order for Vulcans to play darts, they would have to hang out in bars.
Have to go to a bar, yeah.
Right.
It's a very fine motor skill, and I would think a Vulcan would have very fine motor skills for some reason, whereas just dunking a basketball, can you imagine?
It would be amazing though, just to see Vulcans dunking on humans and then just walking away because like there's no victory. It's just yes, I'm stronger than you. I got the ball in the hole. I win. Let's move on.
Do you like that we've talked about the B plot like 10 times more than the A plot in this episode? Does that say something about this episode?
Well, yeah, that's why I was so excited to get to the B plot. Like, there's so much more there.
Is there more there?
Clearly, there is.
Well, okay. So let's go back for a moment. So
sorry, one last thing I need to say about the zone. They explained the zone. Like, who does not know the zone?
Well, this is one of those things where they hire a 50-year-old to write a teenage rom-com where everything is explained. Because they did all this research and they have to put it in there because they spent all the time doing the research about
They're so excited
about what a selfie is. Anyway.
So all right, that was it. Yeah. So going back to the A plot, so I know that the exposition irritated you to a certain extent, but I really liked that the issue was exports versus domestic. And Kira was on Shakaar's side originally until the Kai actually explained why they needed the replicate or the whatever they were called, the reclamators, right? I think so.
Yeah. They were unclear.
And Kira was like, okay, I get it. Like we're trying to be a part of the universe again. And this will actually give us we won't be considered, I mean, she says it, we won't be considered the poor Bajoran planet and people that were ruled by the Cardassians, we will actually have our own place in the galaxy. And I thought it was cool to have her be on Shakaar's side, switch over to Kai's side, and then when she saw how Kai was way overreacting, she went back over to Shakaar's side. Not because she agreed with him, but because she thought the other side was being too heavy-handed.
Well, and she heard that deep, sexy voice. I mean, how can you how can you resist the deep, sexy voice?
She heard that whisper gruff.
Yeah. Okay. So I was on Lady Drapery's side the whole time because it wasn't just that he stole. First of all, he stole farm equipment,
but he didn't steal it.
They said he stole it.
She said that he stole it, and then
so what did he do?
That he was given it for a year, and after 3 months, they came back and said, "Never mind, we want it back."
Oh, that must have been when
you were watching Breaking Bad.
Yeah, when Walter White was doing something interesting. So, okay, fine, whatever. But I still agree with Lady Drapery because the stakes are totally higher. It's not just that he stole something, right? It's that, hey, we're trying to get back into the unit. We're trying to be a member of this community. It's very important. And I'm assuming that being a member of the Federation is a really big effing deal, right? And that to be eligible for that is very difficult to do. It's probably akin to becoming a citizen of the United States. It takes years and years. You have to do a lot of studying and overcoming racism. So I still agree. Like, just because Kira doesn't like her, I mean, the stakes are way higher than just returning the farm equipment, right?
Right, but Shakaar's position was he wants to take care of Bajor before they immediately start offering their goods to other people. And he was saying, like, we are still recovering from the Cardassian oppression. We need to take care of our own before we try to start offering our goods to other people.
Right, which is where it gets a little kind of cloudy for me because it's not clear. First of all, his farm sucks, right?
It's very barren, yes.
Yeah,
but that's what the Reclamator's supposed to do.
Right, but he's not working yet. We never see him actually working in the fields providing food for his fellow Bajorans. And so I get the impression that he was making more of a political statement, right?
Okay.
I thought that was what it was more about rather than I can feed 4 or 5 more Bajorans on my crappy farm.
Right.
And so I looked at it as he's still got some fight in him, and so he's fighting against Lady Drapery. I think that she is looking out for Bajor and Bajorans on a much grander scale because this will allow them to participate with the Federation. And I'm assuming that comes with its benefits, right? And very few, what's the opposite of benefit?
Disadvantages? Cons?
Really? That's not a great. Not a great.
I've been trying. Like, there's pros and cons. There's advantages and disadvantages. There's benefits and risks.
Yeah, I guess that's it. Here's a hard one. What's the opposite of dense? It took me years to find this and many Facebook polls.
The opposite of dense.
It's not light.
Right.
It's not sparse.
No, it's not sparse. Okay.
No, it's rare.
Rare?
Yeah. Rare means not bountiful, but also, or not many, but it also means the opposite of dense.
Interesting. See, because I would, like, bread can be dense. Bread cannot be rare. Like, this loaf of bread is very dense.
Right, but you would say the inside, the crumb is a very rare crumb. Like the crumb meaning like the inside of the bread, whether it's very dense or very sort of open like a baguette. That would be rare. I didn't know that. And boy, is this not making it into the episode.
Right. Well, and for me, the opposite of rare would be plenty.
Plenty?
Yeah.
I thought that the opposite of plenty would be few.
Okay, or bountiful. Like if something, or common.
Oh, I see. Yes, it's a different definition of rare. It's like number 2.
Okay.
Not like number 2, number 1, like what, I want to make that very clear to the people who are never going to hear this.
It's the shit definition.
This is rare bread. Yeah, it's pretty shitty.
I do not want my steak rare.
Oh, and scene.
All right, where were we?
Anyway, so I'm with Lady Drapery. I think that she's right, and I think that yes, Kira doesn't like her. She's a little condescending, but other than that, I think she has a good heart. She really wants what's best for Bajor. And by the way, the only reason we are not supposed to like her is because of Kira.
Oh, no. I mean, maybe in this episode, yes, but no.
Well, just as far
right.
as what I've seen, I mean, it's just because Kira doesn't like her. And that's why we're not supposed to like her.
Well, I think Cisco raised some good points about her overreacting over some farm equipment.
Right, but that's my point. It's not just farm equipment.
And then she said the same thing too. Yeah, it's not about farm equipment. So all right, I'll concede that. But I still agree with Shakaar, and I think that based on previous conversations, that is part of what makes this actually a good episode. Still debated on whether or not it's good Star Trek, but because you got a position that you agree with, and I've got the opposing position that I agree with, and they didn't necessarily present that one side is good and one side is evil. Especially at the end when he tried to start attacking the Bajorans, and he was like, I'm done with fighting, and I'm definitely not going to fire on my own people. I think it was able to present the two sides, just to present the two sides, and the show didn't really have a position one way or the other.
And I actually liked those scenes. That was the best part of the episode, other than the darts. That was the best part of where they were going to shoot them. And they didn't, and they had that whole kind of exchange. That was fun. I mean, it wasn't science fiction,
no,
but and I don't think it was particularly Star Trekian.
Okay,
it had the most depth in terms of character and story. Like, I believed them,
Right? Yeah, it was very dense. The thing that
now I have to leave in that whole conversation because you just referenced back to it.
Could have been just fine if you hadn't laughed.
No, because it was weird that you used that word. You obviously were using, so now I have to put it in. Thanks a lot.
No, it's fine. Just cut out it was very dense. I liked that even though they, again, kind of the same thing, like they were, when he came down, there was following the rules, but it was out of respect. It wasn't out of like, you're breaking the law. It was, I really admire both of you for everything you had done. And so, let's figure out a way to compromise. Let's figure out a way to make this all work rather than us just having you be a martyr. And that was the part that Cisco, like, I did agree with. He was like, you are willing to incite civil war over something that could easily be compromised, easily be negotiated. And she agreed to the negotiations, and then she sent in the soldiers.
Yeah, I mean, that is the part maybe where she steps over the line, where she realizes it's going to escalate, where lives will be lost, and she still goes through with it because she wants to be a part of the Federation. Does she deserve to be cooed out of it? Actually, it's not a coup. It is blackmail, though. They blackmail her at the end of the episode, saying, we can tell everybody what you were going to do, or we can have. I don't. They threaten her with that, but I don't know what they're threatening her with. Or for, because they said it's going to be an open election. So why do they threaten her with making public her actions? Who is that actress? She's one of those actresses who is in everything, but you don't know the name. You don't know her name.
Well, guess what?
Do you know her name?
I don't.
So this A-plot, I found it, I mean, except for that last scene, it was just a bunch of hiking and a bunch of watching people tell stories about stuff we don't know about.
Right. And even leading up to that, I mean, unless we've seen them before, I so did not care when Kira was, when they were establishing their history by being like, how is Lupaza and Pharrell?
I suppose it was a nice monologue where they said, why didn't you get a new arm? It would function exactly like the old arm that obviously you're hiding behind your back. and I liked the part where he said, I was supposed to be giving my life for these people, and all I lost was my arm, and so I'm looking at it as good fortune. I'm not going to tempt fate,
Right.
You could say that about taking antibiotics too, which I'm sure that guy's done. You're making a choice here, but I understand. And so I still not Star Trek though.
Right. No, and I also liked that they addressed the fact of, like, you're missing an arm in this future society. That's a ridiculous position to have. Like, we have the technology to give you a new arm. Why aren't you taking it? And then he explained it, rather than just having it be an old war wound, in Star Trek.
Well, I think they were most confused because they saw that he was hiding his arm behind his back, and he was pretending to not have.
See your arm. Why are you pretending?
And every time they say that, he just goes into a story about how he thought he was going in to lose his life, and he only came out without an arm. Yeah. Anyway, can we get back to the darts? I'm so bored. The darts, like, there's just so much happening back in, what's it called? What's Quark's place called?
Isn't it called
It's called
Quark's?
something. Is it called Quark's?
I think so, yeah.
Oh.
In the new series, there actually is a bar that's called Quark's. It's in one of the establishing shots in Picard.
I wonder if they'll convince Armin Shimmerman to make an appearance as Quark.
That would be cool. He's like, no, I'm done with those prosthetics.
I felt so bad for Armin Shimmerman for this episode because obviously it was like they shot for 2 days maximum, right? He was barely in the episode, and but he had to sit through however many hours of makeup, putting it on, and also taking it off every day.
Well,
like it takes just as long to take it off.
Yeah, unless they did all of his scenes in those 1 or 2 days, and then he just had to do it twice and it was done.
I suppose that's true. It may have been just 1 day. I mean, it's not like there was a lot. There was nothing.
I'm pretty sure that if we cut down that whole thing, it would definitely less than 10 minutes. I would say like right over 5 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
I actually thought the Vulcan was Garrick, the actor, just out of his makeup.
Interesting. Yeah.
It wasn't. So that's kind of a non-issue. But
trivia for everybody.
Right. It looks like him outside of makeup, but
the Vulcan is not the person who plays Garrick.
Actually, and I don't know if you know this or not, but the Armin Shimmerman, he does not, outside of his makeup, play Dr. Bashir.
Tune in next week for more hard-hitting trivia for Deep Space Nine.
I will say, you owe me. Cisco said to Kira, glad to have you back. I'll see you in Ops.
Oh, I did see that. Yes, you are right.
Yeah.
They totally call it the Ops crew, which I don't remember at all. Not that I remember everything else about this show, but
right. I'd be super impressed if that was the thing you remembered.
Anyway, the B plot was total horseshit, right? It was so stupid. Nothing happens. They don't even They don't even give any kind of like character development or anything. It's just they play darts and they win, and then he hurts himself and then he loses.
And then somebody else takes over. Right. Like it was literally a B plot to have a B plot. Yeah. He might as well have been looking for the lost remote.
That would have been so great. Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess what happened was their A plot required a lot of production because they were outside and a lot of people and probably a pretty heavy shooting schedule. And so it was kind of a bottle episode for their B plot. It was a bottle B plot. That's what it was. Because they didn't have the money or the time or the resources to do a full functioning one. So they did this bullshit one. They might as well just not had it, right? Thread it out a little bit more and don't have a B plot. Like this is a point where they're adhering to their formula for no reason.
Well, and it could also have been because the actors are paid per episode, or for X amount of time through the season, and they had to get all of those actors in. And since Kira was on a planet and the episode was about Kira, they had to have something that took place on the station to make sure that everybody got their time in.
You could have expanded that plot a little bit more with Kira, and which it needed. Frankly, it needed it needed some other element to make it a little bit more engaging.
Yeah, no, I agree. Right. Well, and it was already taking up, like you said, like the B plot was so nothing, and the A plot. I mean, it was definitely less than 10 minutes. I'd have to go back and see how long it was, but instead of wasting,
I thought you were supposed to be timing. You're supposed to be timing this for the podcast.
Oh yeah, you're not. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, maybe next time we'll have it. Sorry, everybody. Jonathan didn't do his job.
I'm done. I'm walking away.
Fine. I'll do this all by myself.
Dick. Yeah, after our discussion of deciding that we weren't going to bother with that because it was only brought up one time, and you said, no, let's not do that. Like, that's just an added thing that we have to worry about.
There's no such discussion.
Lies.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice. So somebody out there, any of you fans, any of you Measure of an Episode fans would like to go out and time them, that would be great. Send them to us, and we'll put you on the podcast. Maybe. we might put you on you'll probably not be on the podcast, but we would love the data. So send us the data. You're not going to be on the podcast, but send us the data.
We'll give you a shout out.
Maybe.
In the exclusive content in the Patreon.
Exactly. That reminds me. Jonathan, did you know we have a Patreon?
What?
Yeah, we have a Patreon because it costs money to run a podcast. It's not just our free time and quick-wittedness. You can't pay streaming bills and website bills with our quick-wittedness. So for all of you listeners out there, it would be wonderful. If you want to support the show, please go to our Patreon. We have a bunch of different tiers, and we have perks like outtakes and other discussions that we have to cut out because Jonathan rambles or something like that. Or maybe when we talk about vocabulary.
You were just going to rare on me this entire episode.
Well, maybe if you weren't so dense.
Anyway, you can find it at
Patreon.measureofanepisode. Money.
Go.
I don't know the web address, but it's in the show notes.
Yeah, you can find it in the link below.
You can find a link in the show notes. Please support the show. Another way to support the show is by leaving a review. Please leave reviews wherever you find your podcast, whether it's on iTunes, Overcast, Stitcher, any of those things. Anything you can say. It actually doesn't even have to be nice. We'd prefer it if it was nice, but just leaving a review, it helps us. So please go leave a review. Can you imagine? It's like, I want that. I want somebody who doesn't like the show to spend the time to go and leave a review. Right?
People do it all the time.
I know, but I feel like those people still listen to the show. I feel like, right? Like it's sort of a great analogy is the Star Wars people who are super Star Wars fans, but they haven't liked anything since 1983.
Okay.
It's that kind of, I think it's that kind of mentality where they love everything about, except that they're disappointed at the end of it.
They're watching because they keep hoping to like it. Like I stopped watching Star Wars because I realized I stopped liking it. I don't continue to watch to be like, oh, maybe it'll get interesting. Getting back to the 5-minute mark, instead of wasting that time on the B plot, like you said, they could have added, especially since there was so little time put into the B plot, they could have used those 2 minutes throughout the episode, just make it one plot story and fleshed out those characters a little bit more.
I kind of wanted to see the adventures of these guys. It would have been almost better to see sort of them flashback. Like the B plot was a flashback of them together fighting against the Jem'Hadar.
Oh, that would have been cool.
Yeah, that would have been a lot more expensive, obviously, but at least it would have been interesting. It would have made us care about those things. We could have seen what's his name lose his arm.
Right.
It would have at least given us a little bit more context for what they were doing. Otherwise, everything is just reported to us. And we're supposed to care, like you were saying. You didn't care.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, to your point, like it is a budget issue, so I get that a lot of it had to be told instead of shown, but the episode would have had a lot more impact, especially at the end. Like if they were showing them killing Cardassians over and over and over, and like fighting to save the Bajorans, and then at the end to like maybe even have a cut back and forth between the two scenes, where he's doing it to the Cardassians, and because they talked about like a previous ambush like that. And they set up, and him firing on the Cardassians and him putting the gun down at the end, like so much more impactful.
Yeah, I agree. Especially if they made Shakaar kind of bloodthirsty.
Yeah,
and then they pay it off with him not killing somebody. That would have. I mean, it held weight for me. It was good, but it would have been way better if the first half of the episode, or no, like you said, if they cut back and forth. If instead of darts. Stay with me here. If instead of the darts, like they take the darts out of the whole episode. It's like a show. We're putting on a show for people. It's like Cirque du Soleil, but in a podcast.
Well, which is really disappointing because I am actually hanging from a wire right now. I wish you guys could
not just
see it.
Figuratively, like I'm keeping you on the edge of your seat. You're literally hanging from a wire.
Yeah, it takes a lot to set up for this podcast, which is why we need the Patreon.
Yeah, and it's funny. You must be really in shape because you don't sound like you're straining at all.
Well, I mean, it's all about the harness.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right. Which is the name of the next episode that we're watching.
I don't want to watch any episode that's
it's
called
TOS 907 episode season 9. Anyway,
it was.
Yeah. Oh, so there was another example at the end when they essentially blackmail, what's her name? Lady Drapery, of begrudging defeat face. Right?
Yes.
She had sort of that, it's like, but she didn't really do much wrong. I mean, she did do something wrong. I admitted that. Yeah, she did. But, it wasn't like totally deserved, but she did have it.
Yeah. Oh, no, I think we should. But I feel like also in this instance, it wasn't overly exaggerated. Like she was not getting what she wanted, and she was in a position of power to do so. She hadn't been thwarted. Like it's not like her position was taken away. No, it was that she, yeah. So like I felt like the grumpy face that she had was more appropriate than in usual circumstances.
Okay, yeah, I had nothing else. So okay. I think it did have an A plot, did have a B plot technically.
Yeah. So, but there wasn't character growth in the B plot. There was character growth in the A plot.
Yes, but they weren't connected in both. So
well,
no.
Cisco linked the two.
Yeah,
Cisco left the B plot to go to the A plot.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He is the main character in the show and was in a scene with other main characters. That does not make it a connection. I hereby veto. Veto.
All right.
Does he even?
I mean, regardless, we're going to say it's not a Star Trek episode.
Well, there's no science fiction in it, really.
Right. No. Also, going back to Day of the Dove, you were right. That is not only the first, but the only time in the original series that they do site to site on ship.
Oh, yep. Wow. We discovered something.
Yeah.
Another reason to go support the show. Patreon.themeasureofanepisode.money.
We're going to call this the begging episode.
So anyway, yeah, not a good Star Trek show. Even though it did follow all of the formulas, it just didn't have any of the content. It was too rare in content.
Well, there was nothing sci-fi integral to the plot at all. There was nothing Star Trek integral to the plot. So
not at all.
Not Star Trek, but an okay episode of TV.
Yeah. Let's see what we're watching next. Get the old random episode generator.
I love our random generator, by the way.
Original series 312, The Empath. Trapped in an alien laboratory, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy meet an empath and are involved in a series of experiments. Oh, interesting. This might be actually good.
Yeah. Looking at the thumbnail, I remember this episode, and it is. It's a really good social experiment episode. All right, well, let's go watch it.
All right.